Hey Nicola, Madonna here. This is David. He's going to be our surrogate today. So let's get David's the counsellor in my clinic and a tarot card reader. So interesting, fun. Anyway, so let's get into it. Let's work on your brain.
And mine.
Whoops. I put different shoes on. Now let me know if your knees are comfy like that, David.
Yeah, they're good. So will I get integrated too by the surrogacy?
I'll ask the body if it's possible. Okay. I'll ask it. Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. So, but firstly we need to tap into Nicola's energy. Okay, I am now 100% Nicola. I am now 100% Nicola.
I identify with Nicola.
Haha, smarty. Okay. So, do we have any problems with the conscious brain, with the subconscious brain, with the unconscious brain, in relation to using the surrogate? In relation to that's where we need to start. Okay. Is it possible for any integration for Nicola, or any and all integration with Nicola, for David to get simultaneously balancing? Okay, so some of it will be. So we'll just, okay. So our 100% goal is any and all highest good for Nicola. Any and all highest good for Nicola. And we're looking for beautiful working brain pathways. Okay, so let's go see where we need to start. So, do we need to go adrenals, survival, deep survival, hidden deep survival? So there's a hidden deep survival in there. Do we need to do celestial circuit? Yes, we do. Do we need to connect any of the higher chakras? Yes, we do. Okay, so which one's is there anything else that's more important before we get started? No. Okay. So which is the priority then? The deep hidden survival pattern, the celestial circuit, or the chakras? Right, so we need to do the deep hidden survival pattern first. This is part of our signature system. So basically the periventricular survival system is a part of the brain that holds patterns of up to 7 generations of how we cope with stress. How many generations did they look at with the 8th study? Because I know there was like 130 year.
They did it, the best way to do it is with a Genogram.
Right.
And it looks at your family history. You can do them online. They're a family counselling tool. And you usually look back 3 generations to get the patterns. So you'll have your kids, you and your parents, and then grandparents if you get 4.
Yeah, right.
And you can look at because they're hard to move, generational patterns can't be seen by the patient. Yeah. Is that good contribution?
That's good. Right. So firstly, so in relation to the periventricular survival system, we need to add in all the senses. So the sensory overload is part of this, but it's also your 6th sense. So your connection to source, your connection to your intuition, it's not as strong as it should be. And I think that's part of your challenge with kinesiology, because you're going so logical with it. You want to prove it at each step of the way. Whereas part, I believe, of the fun of kinesiology is experiencing it, working with it, and then going, holy moly, this is just what happens. And then you take the logical out of the brain, and you take a lot of problems out of the way if you do it more in an experiential way. But that's just me. And that's certainly how my double gestalt brain did it 30 years ago. So, but we need to access and trigger or wake up your intuition, your 6th sense as well, in relation to your brain physiology.
Can I comment on that?
Mm-hmm.
Intuition is the reader of the unconscious, and the unconscious is the bits that we haven't realised about ourselves yet. And so intuition can tap into it.
Nice.
Sorry,
is that too high? Yeah. Sorry, I'm undoing his button. It was choking him. Yep.
Carl Jung calls the unconscious the birthplace of thoughts and forms, and it's accessed through creativity.
Hold out for me.
Mm-hmm. Oh well. Got me there.
So this little part of the brain is the anterior cingulate gyrus. This is the one to do with how we are coping under trauma, and then how we pick on ourselves when we're not perfect. So this part of the brain has got generational stuff, knowing that if we're not perfect under stress, we will die. So therefore, it
I've
wants
had
us to be perfect under stress all the time, and if not, we pick on ourselves about it all the time. So there's fear, threat, danger in there in relation to the anterior cingulate gyrus. It's also a lot of where our obsessions and compulsions come from.
Is that
So
in the central brain?
it's part of the perivent, so it's around the ventricles in the brain. So where a lot of switching takes place, this is where we store a lot of our generational crap unconsciously. And because it's unconsciously, there's no memories associated with it. Because the unconscious brain is the part of the brain to do with breath and heartbeat and digestion and walking and crawling and the things that we should not ever have to think about. They're stored in the unconscious brain. So when these patterns are stored in the unconscious brain, it's like in your unconscious thinking, your brain is already going, holy crap, I'd better be perfect under stress all the time, otherwise I'm not going to survive. So it puts an extra layer of stress on ourselves at every step of the way.
And the symptoms are automatic, that's why you can't see them.
Exactly.
And the unconscious stores automated things like learning to drive a car, the same as the bad things that you practice.
Yeah. So that little area was fear, threat, danger in the amygdala. We know these little points here, Nicola. So the next little spot showing up is the orbitofrontal cortex. So the orbitofrontal cortex, 2315. And hold out. Okay. So this little part of the brain's about conflict, and one of the cool things is that there's a little loop in underneath the logical and creative hemispheres of the brain, and that little loop is waiting for logical and creative input when we have a problem. So this part is about conflict. It's about should I, shouldn't I, will I, won't it, love it, hate it. So it's all of that stuff that just gets stuck in our brain that's waiting for logical and creative input, because when we're in survival, the blood supply's back here in the unconscious part of the brain, and it's not in the frontal cortex, our problem-solving area of the brain. So, and once again, it's fear, threat, danger. And fear, threat, danger is the water element. So, that sort of anxiety and fear. So it's fear of the future, fear of the past, fear of every second of every day. But what ends up happening, the longer we do that, that's exhausting to our nervous system. That ends up driving anger. So anger at not getting things done, anger at not being in that spot in life we wanted to be, anger that we haven't got as far into our training as we wanted to be. So, sort of fear drives anger in that 5 element.
Can I make a...
Mm-hmm.
When people are in that stress condition, the nerve energy gets blocked in the middle of the brain and doesn't make it to the top around the prefrontal cortex. True? Is that a line?
Don't know.
Okay.
Probably. There's a lot of these little nuclei, and I just work from nuclei to nuclei and clear them. Hadn't thought about how the physicality of it works. I did have a guy in the other day, and when we were doing the bioresonance on him, actually I should do yours again, Nicola. And what we found was that when I was looking at the arteries and blood vessels of the brain, because he had some fairly major stuff going on, all the blood vessels on the outside of the brain looked okay, but the ones deep inside, like you could almost see the brain, the inflammation was deep on the inside of the brain. Like just one after another, and I showed it and I said, well, look at this. Because the experience for him was that he just wasn't able to focus, he wasn't able to concentrate, he was in this inflammation. And anyway, it was funny looking at the bioresonance because it was exactly how he felt. So the third little area of the brain showing up in this is the subcolossal gyrus. So this one okay, your brain wants to escape rather than accept this one, or escape, submission, freezes the amygdala point. So this one's to do with, once again, generational, fight, flight, freeze, but everything on that spectrum, from wanting to go punch someone in the nose or worse, or wanting to go rock in the corner and just moan, so it's a whole spectrum. But if it's externalized and we get rid of the anger, if it's internalized, it ends up creating depression and other challenges. It lowers our vibration. And funnily enough, depression is a lower vibration than anger is, because at least anger, we get stuff done. Whereas when we are depressed and feeling shame and blame and guilt, it's a really low vibration. It doesn't jolly well help anyone. And maybe if there's a good thing about it, it just makes us not want to feel so stupid again and do it again. Now let me just double check those 3 little nuclei, good. So this skippy arm, of course, is giving me yes, no answer, so I'm just scanning a chart with a whole bunch of nuclei on it, and it's either saying yes or no as I go through. Okay, there's a little part of the brain called the vestigial nucleus. Now the vestigial nucleus is part of, it's part of the cerebellum and the pons. So, but it's to do with balance in the body. So we need to, pons, GB15, CB26. And hold.
Better than before.
Different nuclei. Hold. I forgot the last point. Got to hang on. Forgot pericardium 6. So this one, the vestigial nucleus, this is a pain and punishment circuit. So quite often with pain and punishment, this is sort of particularly where I ask whether there's some sort of past life or childhood sort of event, or whether there's something in the womb, childhood event. Okay, is there an age that we can go to, say current to 40 to 35 to 30 to 25 to 20 to 15 to 10 to 5 to 0 to, so 5 to 10 years old, 5 to 6 to 7 to 8, so 7 to 8 years old, 7 to 7.5, 7.5 to 8, so about 7.5 to 8 years old. So this was stuff going on at the time, so what do we need to look at? Okay, so it's not a 5-element emotion, or that's not where the magic is. No, it's not one of those big amygdala emotions, not one of the chakra combos. So flower essence, okay, so bark, bush, bush. Okay, so row 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2. Right, so Croweya is the flower essence coming up. It's an Australian bush flower essence. And it's to do, I don't have any of my books here. Let me have a look. Pause, I'll start again in a second.